Also saves us from having to do a whole bunch of extra cleaning and stuff. As I said, it's not going to look like this when we're done. In fact, when it comes to actually highlighting these, they're going to be different colors completely. We're going to use a different color for highlighting the handle here and highlighting that. So, don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. Okay, more base coats. I'm going to pull out my Glorious Gold. Yes, this is my gold color that I'm going to be using. It's not the best gold in the world, but it is a gold. That looks nice. It's a nice, strong gold. Okay. Put some of that on our palette. And within this, you want to use thinner medium. Because water is going to make your paint... It's going to just make it harder to paint with. Because not only is that going to thin it out, it's going to make the pigment in there, the metal pigments, float around more. You're not going to like it. Guarantee you're not going to like the result anywhere near as much. Actually, and the funny thing about that too is that the gold's actually not going on that it's not covering very well. But because of the brown's filling in. The brown is filling in for the gold. So wherever the gold's having problem covering, the brown is stepping in and being like, hey, look at me. Look at me, I'm the same color. Tricks the eye. That's why we did the brown underneath. It tricks the eye. That way, in case you aren't aware, or maybe you didn't catch the first part of this, gold paints, metallic paints in general, with some exceptions like the metallic, like the Vallejo Air, Model Air metallic colors, Metal paints usually have a longer drying time, no matter what you do. So you do need to be aware of that too when doing this. So likelihood is you're going to want to do more than one coat. And if you're going to be doing more than one coat of this color anyways, that's why I didn't want to do too many coats of the BC Brown. Give me more than one coat of the metallic anyways, because it's gonna be for eliminating brush strokes, really. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what caused me to drop frames because it's not happened since. Okay, for now we're done with some base. We're done with those base coats. That's it. We will later come back and we will do more of the. So we will later come back and do more of that gold, a second layer, but since metallic colors take extra time to dry, it is not an immediate concern. Meantime, we're going to hit a different color. Okay. In this case, we are going to move on to working on highlighting the wolf gray. And to do that, I have ghost gray, which is just a lighter blue gray. So basically wolf gray with white added to it. Water. It's going to be brighter by contrast. It should be. The water, thin it down. Bring your brush to a point. And since the idea of this symbol on the shoulder is supposed to be more of a whitish color, anyways, we're not going to worry about recesses. You're just going to hit the tops of this. More of the top. Ignore the recesses more. Hit less of that bottom side, more of the top side. Just add a little bit of depth to it. See what I'm doing? Not getting all of it. And just the majority of it. Let me see. That part right there, you're leaving a space. It's going to add depth. When it dries, you might notice it a little bit more. but that will add depth. Actually, you really don't need to do more than that. Thin layer. Now I'm going to go back to his face. This is when we're going to start getting a little bit more complex. So we're taking that tan color they originally had. And because we did a really, really thin wash of the flesh shade, you can see there is some definition there. But not so much that you need a ton. It's not so different. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that it's not a hugely different color. And when you don't have a hugely when you made it so it's not a hugely different color, you don't need to re-highlight. So instead here, what we're doing is we are mixing the tan color into a lighter tan. A slightly lighter tan. How slightly? Is we just added a little bit of bone white to the initial color. In fact, after you put it, as you put it on, you may barely be able to tell a difference, but I promise you there is one. Anyways, you want to pick up the raised areas. His brow here, his nose. I'm going to start by showing you small areas. As we build up top of his head. And you want to leave the recesses a little bit around them alone. So those are the areas that are going to be the previous color. Those are areas you're going to keep the tan and the wash in there. Now you might think if you did like full drops, well, that's a lot of paint. That's okay. Because as long as you're working delicately and, you know, not taking hours and hours to do one small step like this one, you're not going to leave the paint there with too much time to dry. Chin in those lips. Chin in those lips. Now this should work out. Is that when you're ready for the next color, which you will be, as long as your paint's not too thick, you'll take some more bone white to that already lighter mixture. Just take and you'll add another drop. Just one more drop. With a little bit of water added to it, you'll mix that in. The reason why you add a little bit of water is you want to make your mix, well, you're adding paint, so you're making your mix thinner, or thicker. With a little bit of water, you make the mix thinner again. And you keep it nice in consistency, and with a little bit of thinness to it, it makes it a little bit more opaque, which makes it cover a little bit less. And when it covers a little bit less, there's a little bit more room to work with. Anyways, hit his brow again. You'll notice it's a little bit brighter. His nose. Chin. And you just want to go smaller than you did last time. And that's really just the trick to it. You're just doing a smaller area than you did before. You can do this as extreme or as unextreme as you want to. And if you look at this guy, notice it's really not that big a difference. But you'll see there is, definition there. And if you're satisfied, that some more bone white in your palette. Mix it further. At this point, it's almost 2 parts bone white to 1 part tan. You'll have a very, very nice, brighter color. Work in smaller areas. finally, you don't want pure bone white. Sorry, I went quiet for a little bit. You don't want pure bone white, but you want almost 3-to-1. At this point, it's so much in the bone white spectrum. That's a very, very, very bright tan. These are just tips. Places hitting with this are just high points, really, really bright spots. You'll have a nice face here. Really, really decent looking transitions. It's a really deep looking face. You can see. That's all you need to do. Okay. We're going to do a final highlight on the shoulder. The Blind Angel symbol on the shoulder. And this, I'm just pulling out Dead White, which is just a pure white color from Vallejo. Add some water to that, thin it out a little bit. You really don't need very much of this on your brush. Use the side of your brush, get the very, very top of this. Okay. Sure you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to get that. Get up here. It's almost like an edge highlighting. You want to get the top sides of these. You can go into it a little bit. We'll give this white feel. Very, very bright white feel. Looks nice, actually. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. Moving along on this guy. He's coming along nicely. Okay. I think we're going to move on to the cloth. Here I'm going to take Ushabti Bone. It's going to be cloth and purity seals. Just take some of that Ushabti Bone. Put it on your palette. Now you can thin this with medium or water. Either will probably work. I'm just going to use a little bit of water. Thin it down. Okay. I'm starting the purity seal. Hit the raised spots. Side. Okay. Now back to this cloth. Said bring it up towards the raised spots. Tiny little strokes. That's one way to do this. Tiny little strokes. Towards the highlights. One important thing I probably should mention, especially when working with cloth. When you're doing highlighting, you want to pull away from the shadows. Almost always pull away from the shadows. So you want your pigments to settle where you take your brush off the model. The important thing you need to make sure you do. Work in layers. Always working in layers. Making sure you're not getting it the exact color you want the first time around. Helps with transitions. Okay. The other side as well. Bottom. Bottom's not as important. You're not going to see the bottom so much. You do want to make sure you get the other side. Okay. Not quite done. This layering on this back side's not done, but see, the front is the more important part, and the front's looking nice. Majority of this backside is going to be obscured by the body. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to Screaming Skull, and this is going to be our final highlight for this one. Don't even need a lot of it on our palette. It's just more of the same. Just a bone color. A little bit of water. Make sure it's nice and thin. I'm going to go back to this. And we're going to hit the edges. Leaving the Ushabti bone color there. Just getting extremes. Okay, I'm just going to take it off of there because that's just getting annoying. This is going to go where the most of the light would hit. Upper sides of cloth. The most raised areas. But not on the green. Probably not the best place for it. Backside a little bit. Again, most of this is going to be obscured, so it doesn't need to be perfect. You just want to get a consistent color. On the back here, match the rest of what you've been doing on the cloth. See, it's not one of those, oh my god, it's the best painting I've ever seen things, but it's looks like cloth. From a distance, you'd be like, oh, that's nice. And that's your point. That's what we're looking for. It's going to have texture. It's going to have the appearance of depth. That's what we want to see. That's what people are going to be impressed with really, really beginning paint job. That's what people are going to be impressed with when you're a beginner painter. Actually, that's what people are going to be impressed with it when you show up as a beginner. Even if you're not a beginner painter, when you show up with this level of quality, people will be impressed. And this is for beginner painters. And hopefully, a lot of beginners are watching it. Hopefully, when beginners watch this, they're really, really happy with the results they come up with as well. Okay. I am going to very, very quickly touch up some of the metal. Hit some more metal areas. So I'm pulling back out the initial metal color I had, which is Vallejo Model Air Steel. A little bit on my palette. Doesn't need to be thinned, just get a little bit. And go through and you want to touch up, hit edges, re-highlight areas that got a little bit too dark because of the Nuln Oil. It's to add some more vibrance to the metal. Also a good chance to clean up anywhere you might have fudged up a little bit. But between this and the Nolan oil, though, especially if you're just getting little itty tips, like on these saw blades, just highlighting the tips of them, what it's going to have this appearance of is it's going to have the appearance of use. What I mean by that is it's going to look dull, except for the edges. And when it doesn't look dull on the edges, that looks like, fresh metal that's been rubbed. Rubbed to be fresh. That gives that really nice used appearance. It's hitting here. Some spots. Some more like overbrushing type areas. I'm also going to hit a few spots to separate them from the red. And these couple spots I'm doing right here are so small that you can just leave them as they are, and most people won't notice. You can also just come back with a little bit of Nolan oil and just go over them. Doing either will have no negative impact. This changes the amount of detail slightly. Slightly. Okay. Next, I'm just going to get some more of that glorious gold I had before. Put that back down on my palette. Just a little bit. Once again, I'm just going to thin it slightly. And we're going to give all the gold metal areas just another light coating of this. This will help smooth it out a little bit and reinforce the color. More towards gold and further away towards towards that brown. If you just skip this step, you'll be fine. Won't hurt it. It just helps a little bit. Honestly, the most important spot for this repainted gold is going to be up here on this iron halo-ish type thing. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be an iron halo or if it's supposed to be something else. But this, as I said, this is just going to smooth out the overall gold on it. So if it has a little bit of a rough look to it, it will look less rough and more smooth after you're done with this part. And once again, after you're done with this, you're going to need to let this gold dry some more. Before we come back and give it a wash. That's right, you heard me. We're going to come back and give it a wash. Meantime, though, move on to the red. I'm going to show you just however I want to do the red here. By the way, I'm just taking the color Bloody Red, or Blood Red, whatever you want to call it. This is Bloody Red. Very, very bright red, almost orangey. Take Wild Rider Red too. What we're going to do with it is we're going to make it kind of like an edge highlight. Work on the upper third or so of the blade. Hit this high spot right here. A little bit on the bottom too. Top side right here. Go up the sides. Hit that spot. This is a really thin color, so the transition will be there. It will be subtle. Hitting quite nicely too. It's going to look nice. But this is just a nice little deviation from the shadows, the shadowed areas. Come over here and do this on this tactical symbol. On the sides of it. Okay. This is a little bit easier. It's more like dotting it with the red color. Now this is not quite the same as the edge highlight, because that's going to come in a second. Basically, this is kind of like the saying, look at the shape. Giving what you're doing more shape. may even look a little weird to you at first. That's fine. Concentrate on defining the shape around the edges. It's good I went back over this too, because now I just realized I did not hit this area with gold like I should have. The skull right here. Okay. Just gives it a little bit of definition. It's almost not even noticeable at this point. That's fine. Now, we're just going to make it pop. Ow. By smacking your finger on your lamp. Now we're just going to make it pop by taking hot orange. You can use fire orange too if you think that looked better. Oop, it's a little bit much, but it's okay. And it's fine in this case because we're just doing small areas. I will use retarder later. Let's get a little bit on our brush. And we're going to just hit the edges. This is edge highlighting. And if you don't like it this bright, you don't have to do it this bright. This step is optional. I just want to show the benefits of a real simple edge highlighting style. Down here, just a little bit. Only use the tip if you need to. Top half, just the top half of the outside of the purity seal. Okay. All right, now we're going to come to the tactical symbol. We're going to hit the corners and the tip. Okay. A little bit on the edges. And then we're just going to hit these corners down here. Again, just create some more depth. Just going to go back to my blood red real fast. Because I never got the symbol on his chest or the cloth part down here. And we're just going to take blood red and go up the center. Take blood red and hit the higher points. You can give yourself that slight deviation from that deep Mephiston red. You actually don't need to go any further on those parts. Because they're such small areas, you're not going to really notice it. In fact, you'll make it look more orange than you want to. And now we're just going to hit the edges in here. And this is just going to add depth. And if you're wondering why that looks really, really weird, you might be seeing, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but there's obvious differences in the color. It's not the color, actually, it's the consistency of the paint. It's because the blood red that I use in the fire orange drives a lot more glossy than the Mephiston red. When you go a matte coat over that, they'll blend together better. Okay. Alrighty then. A lot of this is very, very, very close to being done. And I've been going for about 2 hours. So I am going to at least take a break for now. I'm going to go off stream. I might come back later. I may not. We'll find out. But as I said, I've been going for about 2 hours. I like to break this up into, at most, hour-long segments. So I will be back later.